Greetings, friend. Welcome to the live stream. So happy that you could make it. Please, please, please welcome. This is the course launch for my new 30-day Sudoku Challenge. Please put in the chat where you are from. This is a special second live stream for the month of January, and I'm so glad that you decided to join us. All right, I see that Jerry's on. Thank you so much, Jerry. Good to see you. So I picked out some puzzles I thought we could solve together from my new course, the 30-day Sudoku Challenge. While we solve together, I'll tell you how the 30-day Sudoku Challenge could help you prevent dementia for up to 20 years, possibly save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and solve up to 98% of all Sudoku puzzles. Hey, I see Brian just joined. Welcome, Brian. If you have mastered the top 7 strategies, but you only get stuck when looking for something advanced, keep watching because I have a special surprise for you. Along the way, you may also get a few tips that are going to help you improve your solving fundamentals. Of course, in the chat, you guys are awesome about this. Please be respectful. Other people in the chat, I'll try solving the puzzles on my own. If you see something, feel free to put some answers or hints. This is interactive, and the solving links are in the description. I'll do my best to respond to questions in the chat, and I'll read it out so you know to whom I'm speaking and what question. So, hey, I see Gail Watts living in Belize. Awesome. And Brian from Canada, thank you so much for joining. Austria, got John B. Thank you so much, John. Love to have you on here. So, puzzle 1. I pulled this from my lesson on naked pairs. That's in the 30-day Sudoku Challenge. Like I said, the puzzle link's in the description below. As I go along, I'm going to show you about one, possibly 2 types of naked pairs you can find while solving this puzzle. And with that, it's solving time. Okay, so in the Sudoku Challenge, in some of my videos, you notice I advocate a 5-step solving method. First step is to look for digit restrictions from 1 to 9. And that's what I recommend you do on any puzzle if you don't know quite where to start. So if you look at where the 1s can be, you might notice with these ones and this one, you can put a 1 right there in block 4, and then follow these 2 1s up here into block 1, 2 possibilities for a 1. So you want to mark that. I perfected this 5-step Sudoku solving method from solving thousands of Sudokus. Just applying some kind of method or system to any problem or puzzle, it's going to save you energy and keep you more focused on the task at hand. That's all you can mark for the 1s. You look for the 2s, and really not much going on there with the 2s. Go to the 3s, and with these 2 3s, only one place to put a 3 there in block 6, and then with these 2 3s, 2 places for a 3 in block 1, and with these 3s, 2 places in block 9. Okay, with the 4s, you have a lot of 4s filled out already. Only 2 possibilities here in block 3 because of these 4s, and these 4s, 2 possibilities in block 1. In my scanning and marking lesson in the 30-day challenge, I show you how and where to look for the easy solves, and when and where to mark so you make less mistakes and solve faster. And what I teach is if there's one possibility for a candidate in a 3x3 block, solve it, right? If there's 2 possibilities, mark it. And so you know that there's some restrictions going on, and it'll help you with the solves later on. Nothing else you can do with the 4s there. Check out the 5s. If you double click here, I'll show you where all the 5s are in the puzzle with this 5 and these 5s. You can mark and solve a 5 right there in block 2, and then you got 2 possibilities for a 5 in block 1. Also with these 5s, you can mark 5s in block 6. And something else neat to see here is sometimes you might have an opportunity to solve more than one cell at a time. If you study this particular block, you might notice that when you start looking for the 6s, since this 6 comes up, there's only one place for a 6 in block 6. You saw that. As soon as you saw that, it displaces that 5. So you can solve that for a 5. And instead of leaving the block, you might as well just go, okay, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 filled out. Solve that for a 9 right away. All right, and then you can continue on with your solving. Take those easy solves as you get them. 2 places for a 6 in block 3. And these types of tricks with the 3 cells, I cover that. I have a single cell, a double cell, and triple cell solving tricks in the 30-day Sudoku Challenge, all separate lessons. Continue on with those 6s. This 6 cuts across. You have 2 possibilities for a 6 here in block 5. What's interesting though, since they're in the same row in the block, this makes them a pointing pair. It means they can't be anywhere else along the row. If you put a 6 here, you'd have no place to put a 6 in block 5. And so this can't be a 6, and this can't be a 6 because this 6. You can solve this for a 6. Another way you could have seen it is you could have looked across this row and just counted up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice the 6 was missing and solve it right there. Either way will work. But that's it for the 6s for now. Move on to the 7s. These 2 7s, you can mark 7s at block 5. And then move on to the 8s. Nothing else with the 7s. All right. With these 2 8s, you can solve for an 8 right there in block 4. Notice there's only one possibility left. It's a 2. So just mark that 2 while you're at it. And then what else can you do with the 8s? With these 2 8s and this 8, solve for an 8 in block 7. And with these 8s, solve for an 8 here in block 9. Keep looking at the 8s. 2 possibilities in block 2 and 2 possibilities in block 3. All right. And then look at the 9s now. You might notice with these 2 9s, the 9s are restricted to the same 2 cells as the 6s. So you see on top of each other, you found hidden pair, or in this case, an actual naked pair, because there's no other possibilities or cells you could fill out in row 6. But it also applies here to block 5. So these can't be a 6 or 9 either. They're limited now to just a 2 and a 7. So you want to mark that. So these are kind of the easy naked pairs to find. They're locked in a row, but the rest of the row or the block is filled out. So you still want to mark those because if you can eliminate one of these candidates, you can solve both cells very quickly. And I do cover that type of naked pair in the 30-day Sudoku Challenge. What else can you do with the 9s? Because we're not quite done with step 1. 2 places for a 9 in block 3. And with these 9s, you got a 9 here in block 7. And then with that 9, 2 possibilities for a 9 in block 9. So that's step 1, looking for digit restrictions 1 to 9. You got a lot of good solves there. And I'm going to peek out before I go to step 2 and say, welcome Jelly and Jojo from San Francisco. It's awesome. I'm also here in California. Yoshi Baroshi, thank you so much, Yoshi. I featured so many of your puzzles, and I'd love to have you on there. Thanks, Marek, for coming from Poland. That is awesome. And then Charmeleon, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. Okay, so step 2 of the 5-step method is to go back if you had any easy solves and make sure that you update them. And if you look through here, there's really not much else you can put easy solve-wise because we caught most things as we went along. So then you want to move on to step 3. Step 3 is to look for pairs and triples. And so the idea of pairs and triples is you want to look at columns and rows that are, I call heavy houses. They got at least 5 cells filled out. 6, 7, even better. And when you're doing that, you're going to start comparing and looking for cells that have these called bi-value cells. So there's only 2 possibilities. You want to start matching rows and columns, and that's how you're going to find the pairs and the triples. If you look down here in this column 7, what do you got? You got a 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. You just need, looks like a 2, 5, and a 9. Well, a 9 right there, this can't be a 9. These can't be 5s. Well, then you notice you can solve this pretty easily, right? That's got to be your 2. That's got to be your 9. That's going to be your 5. So easy. Now, if you change your focus right here, what can be in this Well, actually, what can be down here in block or 9, right? Because now you have 5 cells filled out. You just need a 2, 3, 7, 9. 2, 3, 7, 9. Well, you notice you have the 9 and 3 right there. Get rid of the 3 and the 9. And what you have right here is a type of naked pair. So this is a locked naked pair in the column. And so what does locked mean? It means it's a naked pair for block 9, because 2 and 7 have to be in one of these 2 cells, but it's also a naked pair in the column. So when it counts for 2 different houses, it's a locked naked pair. So this means that 2 and 7, they're the only 2 possibilities in those 2 cells. 2 and 7 can't be anywhere else in the column, and it can't be anywhere else in the block. So you can remove the 2 and 7 from right there. And then if you notice this 9, that's got to be your 3, and that's got to be your 9. So you can make some quick solves that way. And with this 2, 7 right here, you know now that these 3 cells cannot contain a 2 or 7, and they cannot contain a 3, 5, 6, or 9. So you just have a 1, 4, and an 8 remaining. Okay, so the 1, 4, 8, 4 right there, and the 8 right here. And now what you've marked those 4s and you marked those 8s. And now it restricts these 2 cells, right? They can't be a 1, 4, 8. They can't be a 2, 3, 5, 9. It's just a 6 or 7, but the 7's right there. So what you do is when you see the restrictions, look over across into the row or other blocks and see if you can get more restrictions and solve the cell. So now that's a 7 and that's a 6. All right. And now, where do you go from here? I talk about looking at row, column, and block impact, because there's another nice naked pair. You got to find this puzzle if you want to keep making progress. And so I'll remove these colors. Look across row 2. You just made a couple solves there in row 2. So now it's a heavy house. It has a 2, 3, 6, 7, 9. You need a 1, 4, 6, and 8. And so you got the 1 here, you got the 4 there, and you got the 6 there. This is a naked single 8. And I cover naked singles as a module. It's the only possibility that can be there. So now you can solve that for an 8. And what's the impact of solving this 8? Well, you look back here, you can remove the 8, marking, displace that 8, solve that for an 8 right away. It leaves you with a nice 1, 4 naked pair. Okay. And then you can finish up this row, and you know this is a 1, 4, or 5. 1, 5 there, and a 4, 5 right there. This is good stuff. And you want to mark things like these 1, 4s. I call them placeholders. It's just a little helpful for you. But now, you've made some restrictions here. You want to see if you can find another pairs or triples that can help you out. You might notice right here, there's something you can do. Okay, you got 7 digits filled out here in column 3. You got a 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. You notice you've marked 3s in block 1, but only in this one cell, not in that cell. What does that tell you? It tells you you've already eliminated 3 from this cell. So you know this has to be your 3, and that's going to be your 6. So that's helpful to see and find there. You're not done. Look across row 1 now. The impact, you've made another heavy house. This just can be a 1, 2, or a 7. So mark the 1, 2, or 7. And this can't be a 7, and this can't be a 1. Okay. And then look across row 9. You got 1, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. You need a 2, 3, or 7. So put the 2, 3, 7 here. And you'll notice that because there's 3, this cannot be a 3. And so, you notice anything interesting going on now? Compare the rows 1 and 9. You look down here in column 5, well, you have a 2, 7 right there, and you have a 2, 7 right there. So that's another naked pair, and this is a not locked naked pair in the column. So by saying locked, like locked means if they're in the same block, but these are not in the same block. These are tricky to spot, because you have to notice that one's in one block and one's in the other. The only way you're going to find this is to compare rows and do some marking. And what does this mean? It means a 2's got to be there. If it's not there, then it's a 7, and then that would be a 2. So 2 and 7 can only be in these 2 cells in column 5. Well, This cannot be a 2 or 7. You put a 2 or 7 there, you run out of spots of digits to put in the orange cells. So you know now you can actually solve this now for a 1. And look at the impact on that. That's a 2 displacing that 1, displacing that 5, displacing that 4. And so that was part 3. When you're making these kind of solves and you start to get a lot of momentum, part 4 would be look for advanced strategies. But if you don't need advanced strategies, you can move on to part 5. So step 5 is to hunt down the marks. So as you start making these solves, just hunt down the marks. Because of the 4 in the row, that's got to be a 1, that's got to be a 4. Because there's 2, that's got to be a 7. All right, and then you'll notice you just have 2 and a 6 here. Can't solve that just yet, so I'll make those marks. And with this 2, 7 here, that means the 6 9s remaining, you can actually only put a 6 or 9 right there. You're not going to put a 2 or 7 in those 2 cells. So make sure you cover all the marks, and then look at impact, row, column, and block. You'll notice that you have 2 cells remaining in column 2. So you just need, looks like a 5 and a 6. Well, you got the 5 right there. So there's your 5, there's your 6. Try to solve these in blocks. That's a 9. That's going to be your 6. That's going to be your 9 right there. So you clean all that up. And then what else can you do? Well, you might notice you need a 2 or 6 to finish column 6. Well, you just mark that 6 there. So that's a 2. That's a 6. That's a 2. Now you can disambiguate that nice naked pair you found. And with these 7s and with this 2, you know that's got to be your 3 and that's going to be your 2. 3, 7 to finish column 1 or block 7. Pull the 3 over. There's your 3. There's going to be your 7. Disambiguate. 7, 2 right there. You have 2 cells remaining. All right. I know one of them's a 1, so that's got to be your 1. And just count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't see a 6. Solve the last cell for a 6. Okay, so I just showed you some naked pairs. This puzzle, and I cover more of it in my naked pair module. There's 5 types, actually. And now I want to show you something. I want to talk to you a little bit about my actual 30-day Sudoku Challenge course. I could tell you that there's 16 modules in the base course, plus 8 bonus lessons to include Sudoku solving secrets, with 3-time world champion Thomas Snyder. He made 6 modules talking about all his solving secrets for you. I can tell you I came up with 85 benefits that you'd receive from this course. Everything from solving any New York Times hard Sudoku, and I prove it to you in the course, to identifying puzzle patterns quicker, to solving 2 to 3 cells at a time, kind of like what you just saw, to knowing what to do when you get stuck in a puzzle. But the real value in this is how you'll get the tools to protect your mind for years to come. Learning how to solve Sudoku better improves your working and short-term memory. Studies show daily puzzle solving can help prevent dementia by up to 29%. And when you hear a number like that, I want you to think of your loved ones, your friends, your family, the people closest to you. Don't you want to hold on to the treasured memories and moments you have with these people for as long as possible? I want to share a personal story here. My mom, a couple years ago, she was diagnosed with cancer when she was 80 years old, and she went to an assisted living facility. The good news is that she beat the cancer. She's no longer in there. But while she was there, she would interact with the memory care patients that are in the same facility. And some of their memories were so bad of the people that she interacted with that she'd get on the elevator with them, and the people would forget which floor they're going to, what floor they're getting off on, why they were in an elevator. They couldn't even remember family members who would visit. They couldn't remember loved ones and their photographs. It's heartbreaking, very heartbreaking. And not to mention the cost. If you're in a memory care facility, the average cost, the average person is going to spend 2 to 10 years there. In the U.S., each month of memory care costs on average $7,785 a month. So you could spend 2 to 10 years, almost $8,000 a month. That's $186,000 if you're just there for 2 years. But it's up to $934,200 you would spend on memory care if you were in there for 10 years. I am not a medical professional. Please do not think I am. I have found no evidence that Sudoku, much less any pill or surgery, can cure dementia. I haven't found that. All I know is that research shows lifestyle changes, work on your nutrition, your exercise, your sleep, meditation, and brain-engaging activities such as Sudoku have been effective in reversing some of the effects of early onset dementia. And these effects can last up to 20 years. So engaging your brain in Sudoku for 5 to 10 minutes a day could preserve your memories longer. Don't you want to do that? This course, you notice, is priced at $297. It's just a fraction of the cost of 1 month of memory care. The 30-day Sudoku Challenge really sounds like a great deal when you compare it to that. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to get $50 off of this cost. And now you're wondering, hey, what if this puzzle was harder than the one you saw? You know, you need more than just like 8 strategies. So I even cover hidden triples and 8 strategy in the 30-day Sudoku Challenge course. But what if you need something harder than that? Like in this puzzle by Jeet Sampat. It's called Angular. And if anyone's ever saw this, let me know. I did have it on my channel earlier. 93% of the people who saw this on Logic Masters Germany loved it. They gave it's one of the highest approval rates I've ever seen for Sudoku. And for puzzles like this, you will use all 5 steps of my 5-step solving method. But now you're going to incorporate step 4. So the puzzle link's in the description if you want to do it. And with that, it's solving time. So, step 1, digit restrictions, 1 to 9. You'll notice with the 1s, 2 possibilities for 1 here in block 6 and 2 possibilities in block 2. How about nothing else with the 1s? How about the 2s? 2 possibilities for a 2 in block 2. These 2s, 2 possibilities there in block 4. A little bit of symmetry going on with these 1s and 2s. 3s, 2 possibilities for a 3 in block 2. A lot of restriction in block 2. Nothing else you can do with the 3s. You cannot do any marks, 2 candidates or less, or any more solves. Move on to the 4s. Nothing you can do with the 4s this time, and nothing you can do with the 5s. You have 4 spots here. You have, like 5 spots there, 4 spots. Not a lot of progress in this puzzle so far. How about the 6s? All right, with this 6 coming down, you actually have a nice pointing pair of 6s in block 5, which you think, hey, might be helpful, but it doesn't really do much else at this time. Yeah, about the 7s. 3 spaces for a 7. I don't mark 3 spots because you notice if you solve one of these cells, you might be tempted to solve the other for a 7. Not helpful. It also keeps clutter from the grid. But nothing you can do with the 7s. Nothing you can do with the 8s. All right, how about the 9s? All right, with these 3 9s, 2 places for a 9 right there in block 8. And so you went through 1 through 9, no solves. Step 2 would be to go back through if you had some solves and find the other easy solves. Update your marking. Nothing there. All right, step 3 is to look for pairs and triples. Now, there are not really any heavy houses. This has 4 candidates. This has 4 candidates. This is the only heavy house, but filling it out may not be to your benefit because the only restriction you make is you remove 6s from these 2 cells. If you are astute and you're looking at 3 cells at a time, 3 givens, you might notice you have a 5, 8, 9 right here. Can't be in these 2 cells. You also have a 5, 8, 9 across row 1. So 5, 8, 9 cannot be in that cell. So if you compare the 5, 8, 9 here and the 5, 8, 9 here to its effect on column 3, what you'll notice is the only 3 places you can put a 5, 8, 9 are those 3 cells. And so that's a nice hidden triple, right? Because they can't be here, they can't be here, and they can't be here. So nothing else can be in these 3 cells except the 5, 8, 9. And you cannot remove any of those candidates. So if you find that, you're astute, awesome. You found a nice hidden triple. No real impact to that at this time. You could mark these cells if you want, and I'll mark them. 3, it's like a 3, 4, and a 6. And so this would be, 4 or 6. That could be 3 or 4 because of this 6. And this would be a 3, 4, or 6. But that's it. That's it for step 3. So if you need something more, and you got to understand how my step 4, looking for advanced strategies, work, this is the puzzle for you. So step 4 is to look for advanced strategies. And the 2 main paths you can take, path 1 is to look for digit restrictions, single candidate advanced strategies. The other path you can take is to look for by value cell candidates and strategies. Well, let's look at the single candidate options here. So how you do that is we'll start with the ones. You want to highlight in color where all the ones could be at this point in the puzzle. Okay? They can be there, they can be there, they can be here. And then remove those ones. And I'll color these in purple. And then what you want to do is you're going to look for conjugate pairs. So a conjugate pair, like here in row 1, there's 2 possibilities for that candidate in a house, a Sudoku row, column, or block. So, and what it means is they have a relationship. Either this cell's a 1. If it's not a 1, this other cell has to be a 1. And so you know a 1's got to be in one of those 2 cells. That's very powerful in creating advanced strategies. The conjugate pairs, they're called the backbone of advanced strategies. So this is also a conjugate pair. This is a 1. If it's not a 1, that has to be a 1. These are conjugate pairs. Well, if you look down the column, this is a conjugate pair of 1s right here, right? Only there are 1's there. If it's not there, it has to be there. You also have a conjugate pair here within the block, but realize these are not as powerful because you can't really connect them with any other conjugate pairs easily. What you do know is if you solve one of these cells, you can solve the other for a 1 right away. And then you have a nice conjugate pair right there. The power in the advanced strategies comes into comparing these, especially if the conjugate pairs share block, like the 2 pairs. So look right here. That's a nice conjugate pair in cross row 1. All right, you know one's got to be there. If it's not there, it's got to be there. Well, you have another one right here in column 1. So this is another conjugate pair. One's going to be there or there. And they both share this block, right? And you have one conjugate pair coming out of the row of block 1, and you have one coming out of the column. This is an advanced strategy called a 2-string kite. This is beautiful. And what it means is that with the conjugate pairs, either 1's there, and anything that sees it cannot be a 1. Sees it means shares row, column, or block. If it's not a 1, forces a 1 right there. This can't be a 1, and it forces a 1 right there. What you notice, a 1 has to be here or here in the 2-string kite. And it kind of looks like a kite with, this is the top of the kite, and these are like the wings coming out. And then think of where the strings will be. They connect to this cell here, which sees both of these 2 cells. And let me get back to the marking. And so since you know a 1's got to be there or there, a 1 cannot be in this cell. And it's easy to show, if you put a 1 there, what's going to happen? You remove the 1s from these cells, and in row 1, you'd have to force a 1 right there. But in column 1, you'd also have to put a 1 there in the same block. Can't happen. That's why you know you can remove the 1 from that cell. And what can this cell be now? This is beautiful. It can't be a 1. It could be a 2, but it cannot be a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It could be an 8, but it can't be a 9. Okay. So we found that nice 2-string kite, but didn't quite make a solve there. So let's move on to the 2s, see what you can do with the 2s. And remember, there's some symmetry going on, right? The way these 1s and 2s all worked out. Wouldn't be surprised if you see something going on with the 2s. That'll be helpful in advanced strategy. 2s can be there, they can be there, and they could be there. All right, you see some conjugate pairs. It looks almost like a mirror image, right? 2's there, 2's there, 2's there, 2's there, 2's there. All right, can we combine some of these conjugate pairs? Sure enough, look in block 3. This is beautiful. I love handmade classics, and this is one of the reasons why. This is so slick, right? Another 2-string kite of 2s. Either this is a 2, if it's not a 2, that has to be a 2. No 2 there. Forces a 2 right there. You know, a 2's in one of these cells. You can eliminate a 2 from this cell right there. And so I cover these types of strategies, all about the step 4 of my Sudoku solving method, in my Sudoku Ninja course. I call it Sudoku Ninja. So you've watched my channel, you're good with the top 7, but you need help with these harder strategies. So I cover dozens of single candidate and by-value cell strategies. Also cover uniqueness and coloring, which can get you to solve some of the hardest puzzles you're going to find. Let's look at the impact now. Row, column, block. You put an 8 right there. What does that mean? Let's not forget the solving. Well, now with these two 8s, you can solve this for an 8, displacing that 6. These are just a 7, 9 right there. Okay. Since the 7, 9 have to be in one of these two cells, this naked pair acts as a pointing pair. So that can't be a 9. This cell has to be a 9. And you see, starting to make a lot of progress here. So continue to see what else you can do. All right. The impact, row, column, and block. You added some 8s. So with these two 8s, 2 places for an 8 right there. You've added some restriction here in column 5. So now it can just be, it looks like a 1, 2, or a 4 to go with the 3, 5, 6, 7, 9. Well, 1 and 2 right there. This has to be a 4. Gives you a nice 1, 2 naked pair right there. And so you notice, best setters, they leave you these little breadcrumbs here. And so now you just keep following it and go, okay, what else can we do with each of these added solves? You can restrict the 6s right there. What do you have here? 1, 3, 5, and a 7. Well, 3, 5, 7 there. This can only be a 1. It's a naked single. 3, 7 there. That's got to be a 5. Okay. And now you know this is going to be a 3, 7. And when you put this naked pair in there and you go 3, 7, that 1, that's not going to be there, right? You can displace that 1. Solve this for a 1. Now solve this for a 2. And you see, you displace the 2 there, and you just keep getting more solves. And so when you feel like you don't need any more advanced strategy, you move on to step 5. Hunt down the marks. If you get stuck again, just repeat. Go back to 4, go back to 3, go back to 2, whatever you need there. All right, this can only be a 5 because of this nice naked pair. And now 5's in these 3 spots right there, but what else can you do? Well, these 2's and this 2, you can solve for a 2 right here. Solve for a 2 right there. Nice. And then with these 2's and this 2, you can solve for a 2 right there. Looking good. What do you have left here? Looks like a 4, 6, and a 7. These 2 7's. And the 4 repeats. Neat naked triple trick. You know this has to be your 6. The only place the 7 goes right there, and this is going to be a 4. I do cover that in the 30-day Sudoku Challenge. Look at the impact, row, column, block. That's a 6 now. And this can't be a 6 anymore. Gives you a 3, 4 naked pair along here. What else do you have? Because of this 1, this has got to be a 1 now. Because of this 4, this is going to be a 3. And now you can solve for the 4 there. 3 in the corner. Bum, bum, bum. A little wintertime action for you. You got the 3 right there. Look at the impact. And you want to look where there's great restrictions, or restrictions you just made. You got a 4 and a 6 here because of this 4. There's your 4, there's your 6. Okay, what else can you do? Well, with these 2 6's, it's okay to mark 6's. Look across here. You got a 1 and 8. Well, this 1, that's your 1 displacing that 8. And now you can displace this 1, solve this for a 1. Looks good. All right, 3 and a 5 here. Mark it as a pair. So you kind of like a morphine back to step 3 or step 2 as needed. Continue the solves. Look at these 1's. Finish the 1 right there. All right. And you create more restriction up here. With these 5's now, only place for a 5 and block 1's right there. So that's a 5. These are with an 8, 9 naked pair. Looking good. And then what do you have left? It looks like 6, 8, and 9. Well, the 8, 9 right there, that's got to be your 6. This is going to be a nice 8, 9 pair. All right, this 2, displace the 2. Hunting marks. That's got to be your 2 now. All right. And you got, looks like a 4 and a 5 here with this 5. There's your 5, there's your 4. And beautifully constructed puzzle. I have dozens of handmade classics in the Sudoku Ninja course and, of course, the 30-day Sudoku Challenge that you can practice with. Okay, let's keep moving on here. Again, look for biggest restrictions to get your next solve. So I think we got all the 1's. Did we get all the 2's? We sure did. How about the 3's? How are the 3's looking? All right, looks like 2 spots for a 3 right there. No big deal. How about the 4's? Hey, you know, might as well just make some marks as we go along here until you find something else. I'll look in the chat. Do you guys have something in the chat? No, I see Manfred's here. Welcome from Germany. Yep, Michelle said, hey, any tips for it? Looking for advanced strategies on paper. Yes, one tip. You can mark conjugate pairs on the outside of the block. So like if you had a conjugate pair like these 4s, you could mark here on the side 4s. And then you can start noticing what rows, columns have conjugate pairs. Another thing you can do is you can do lettering. So you can, mark like A's or B's above certain conjugate pairs and connect them that way. Great question. I do give some tips like that in the course itself. All right, you got a heavy house here. It looks like you need a 3, 7, and a 9. Oh, that's just a 3, 9. 9s can't be there. That's going to be a 3, 7. Okay, what else do you have here? It looks like 3, 6, 7. 6s can be right there. All righty. So again, look for, we did 4s. How far do we get with the 5s? 2 spots for a 5 right there. How about the 6s? I feel like we're close. And there's probably some easy solves that I might have missed out on. Nothing doing really with the 7s. Did we get all the 8s? Not easy. And then what about the 9s here? All right. Maybe we got to look through and find another pair. So go back to step 3. You got a heavy house here in column 9. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. You need 3, 4, 8, 9. And so you'll notice that's going to be a 3, 8, 9. 3, 4, 8, 9. And looks like you got 3, 4, 8, 9 right there. Alrighty, what about across here? 3, 7, 8, 9. With this 9. 3, 7, 8. Not looking good. 3, 7, 9 across here. That's going to be a 3, 7. There we go. Maybe somehow I missed this, right? Because this pointing pair of 9s, that can't be a 9. This 9, that can't be a 9. That's got to be your 9, right? Because you have a nice 3, 7 naked pair. Nice. Makes things a little bit easier. Then you restrict that now to 3, 4, and 8. Okay, what's the impact on that? With these 2 9s, now you can solve for a 9 right there. And there's your 8, there's your 9. You go right back to getting those solves knocked out. And then with this 8, this can't be an 8 anymore. You have a 3, 4, 7, it looks like across here. Worth marking the 3, 4, 7. And you have a 3, 7, 8 across here. Worth marking those 8s. All right, you create restriction now on column 7. So you just need a 3, 5, and a 7 there. That's a 5, 7. And this would be a 3, 7. And when you'll notice now, all right, got the 5s right there. 7s are restricted there, so we can mark 7s there. Because they're the only place they can be in column 7. It makes them a claiming pair. And so 7 has to be here. If 7's not in one of those spots, you have no place to put 7 in column 7. So that means this can't be a 7 anymore, right? You put a 7 there, you're going to mess up the puzzle. So this has to be your 3. That's your 7, displacing that 3, displacing that 6. And then follow the marks, hunt them down again. All right, there's a 6, displacing that 4. So you never want to give up on these puzzles. 3, displace that 4. Disambiguate the 7 and the 3 right there. Because every cell you solve will just get you that much closer. Solving the rest of the puzzle. With this 3, that's a 5, that's a 3. Displace this 5. There's your 5. Displace that 7. You know, that's the 9. That's the 7 right there. This has to be the 8. That's the 9. All right, your last cell. Count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got to be an 8. Awesome. All right, what did you guys say about the puzzle? 9 in row 5. Thank you so much, Charmilla. You did catch that before I caught your comment. Do appreciate that. Okay, so what am I talking about here with advanced strategies? The Sudoku Ninja Challenge is a separate course. It'll help you solve 98% of all the puzzles that you will see. You're going to learn over 20 advanced strategies, advanced techniques and concepts to keep your brain sharp for years to come. There's also more bonus videos I add to this. compared to what you see in the 30-day Sudoku Challenge. But here's the best part. You can buy the Sudoku Ninja standalone. If you're just ready now for the challenges, for the strategies, you already know the top 7. You're like, I just need help with the advanced strategies. I need help with your puzzle packs, Timberlake. You get lifetime access, and I'm going to give you a $50 discount on this challenge as well. If you buy the 30-day Sudoku Challenge, however, I will give you the Sudoku Ninja Challenge at no additional cost. So you notice this. It includes the Sudoku Ninja Challenge. And hey, $50 discount. I'm going to put a link in this description once the live stream is uploaded. I'm going to send an email. If you're on my email list, I'm going to put in the pinned comment. You click on the link, you can get the 30-day Sudoku Challenge for $50 off. And if you just want the Ninja Challenge, I'll put that in the description as well, where you can go and just sign up for that Ninja Challenge. So I got 2 courses here. People asked for both, and so I wanted to offer both of you today. I had a lot of help from my beta testers and from Adrija, my virtual assistant, in getting this up and running today. You'll shortly see these courses posted on the smarthobbies.com website. They're not quite there yet. You can only access them through these special links, and you'll get that discount. Remember, dementia affects 10 million people in the world each year. I want you to take the 30-day Sudoku Challenge. In a little 30 days, you're going to protect your mind. You're going to be able to do something about it today. I want to thank you so much for your support. I want to thank you as well. As always, thank you so much for watching.